In this video, I'm going to discuss a key term and topic that's very important to both aspects of media practice that I discussed in the previous lecture video, and that is perspective. Perspective refers to the unique worldview that each of us develops through our personal identities and lived experiences. We bring our perspective with us to everything that we do, to the way that we consume media, and if we work in media production, to the way that we produce media. Our perspective constantly changes as our lives change, and we have new and different experiences. This class may change or challenge your perspective on issues of gender and sexuality. Perspective is particularly important when we're talking about media, because most popular media is currently very limited in the numbers of different perspectives involved in making that media. There are also limited perspectives shown in the finished work. It's important to think about the number and types of perspectives involved both on screen and behind the camera, in the final audio that airs and at the radio station, in the book and at the publishing house, and so on. Representation refers to how people behind the scenes and in public-facing roles in media production include and value the ideas, input, and perspectives of people with different identities and different lived experiences. And there's a lot of data available that shows us that there aren't a very wide array of perspectives involved in producing most of the media that we consume. This graph shows us that most of the media produced in Hollywood is still dominated by white characters, and that most films have very few speaking roles for characters of other races. This affects how representative these films are to more diverse media-consuming audiences. You're going to watch at least a couple of videos this week on popular tropes that also show very limited representation of women and queer people, specifically in video games. But this is an issue that cuts across racial and class identities as well. These graphs similarly break down some of the important roles behind the scenes, particularly showrunners on network television shows. And these graphs tell us that most showrunners who are involved in making a lot of key decisions, what actually airs on television, are still predominantly white men, who have a limited range of lived experiences and a limited range of perspectives they bring to these very powerful positions in making television shows. And this underrepresentation of people who aren't white men, both on screen and behind the camera, has real-world consequences. American and Western European, really arguably global media messages have repeatedly told Black women that they can only access fame, power, and wealth through a very limited set of performances, which are often stereotyped as the sexual aggressor or the overburdened mother figure. However, when Black women perform in ways that do fit these models that have been ascribed to them or forced upon them, they still face criticism and censure, for example, for being too slutty. I don't know if any of you remember, but this album cover for Nicki Minaj's album Anaconda was treated by a lot of music industry media and beyond as incredibly scandalous and salacious at the time. However, next week, you're going to read a chapter from a book whose author is among the Black feminists challenging these tropes and the double standards that can negatively affect Black women both on screen and as media consumers. And I look forward to talking about that chapter with you all more next week.